how to glaze. Note that this is different than underglazing, okay? Okay, so after your piece has been bisque fired, it's gone through its first firing, it will be ready to glaze. How do you tell if your piece has been bisque fired? Usually you'll be able to keep track, but let's say it was fired a while ago or you can't remember if you fired a piece or not. Here is a difference in the way that they look. This is the same clay. This is Christy Lombard. This one is bisque fired and this one is still greenware. So the biggest way that you can tell is bisque stuff has a little bit of a sound to it. It will be a little bit more clinky versus this greenware doesn't have that same kind of ring to it. Greenware will also chip or scrape really easily. So even if you just kind of like, ew, I hate the feeling, but if you like dig a tool or something into your piece, you'll be able to scrape away at it versus on bisque, doing the same thing, it won't scrape away any of the material. So you'll only want to glaze things that have already been bisque fired. Once you are ready to glaze, the first step will be to wax the bottom of your pieces. To do this, you'll take a pencil, just a number 2 pencil. I've never used a colored pencil. I don't know what that would do, so just use like a regular pencil. And you'll lay it down flat on the table. Then you'll take your piece and you'll just start marking around the bottom. This will give us what's called a glaze clearance. Glaze essentially turns to a liquid glass in the kiln, and so it will often melt a little bit, and this prevents the glaze from making our piece stick to the kiln shelves. So we always want to make sure there's no glaze on the bottom of our piece, but we also leave this glaze clearance so that there's a little bit of room in case it melts a little bit more than we expect. What we're going to do with this line is we are going to wax the bottom of our pieces up to this line. This is wax, it's backwards, but this says read wax resist. There's other kinds of wax as well. This is my favorite, but you want to paint this onto the bottom of your piece. The wax is very liquidy and very runny, and it's important to note that you don't want to get it anywhere on your piece that you want glaze to be. In my case, I want my whole piece to be glazed, so I only want to get it on the bottom. If I get some up here, the glaze will not stick. No matter what you do, the glaze will not stick. It is relatively permanent. Let's say you get a bunch of wax on your piece and you're like, oh my God, my piece is ruined. The way that you can get it off is if you put this piece through the bisque kiln again, it will melt the wax and then you can use it again. We're gonna paint the bottom. We're gonna make sure we don't get it anywhere we don't want. If you wanted to do like a design or something where you didn't want there to be wax to be, that's completely fine. That's like a wax resist technique. You're more than welcome to do that, but just know that that is a space that the glaze won't stick. After we have waxed the bottom of our piece, we will grab our glaze. I've grabbed this tutu pink. I have also brought with me a whisk as well as these little tongs. You'll probably want a paintbrush and a sponge as well. For all of these glazes, they will settle. There will be thick sediment at the bottom, and you'll want to make sure that you mix everything really, really, really well, because if you don't, your glaze could come out completely differently or just not look as good as you were hoping it to. Also, if the glaze isn't mixed up well enough over a long period of time, and a lot of people have been using it, it can throw off the balance of the whole glaze, and then it can look different just permanently for anyone else who wants to use it. So that's kind of a bummer. Most of the glazes are formulated to be painted on. Some of them you are able to dip into. The bigger buckets, I think you can often dip into. Sometimes they'll be too thick, so just kind of use your own discretion. If it seems really thick, if it seems more of like a not quite pudding consistency, but like if it seems like kind of a thick milkshake, that is probably going to be one that you want to paint on. versus if it seems more watery, kind of like a melted milkshake maybe, or like an extra thick whole milk situation. I don't know, that's kind of gross, but just a little bit thicker than, you know, something that's super liquidy, that's gonna be totally fine to dip. If you want to dip, you can use these tongs. I mean, you can use your hand, but the glaze won't go where your fingers are. So you can use these tongs. You just kind of grab your piece with them, and then you can dip them into the bucket, dump it out, and then put it on the table. This will make it so there's just a couple little dots on your piece that don't have glaze. Often they'll seal right up, or you can dab a little bit of glaze on top. After you have glazed your piece, you want to come in with a damp sponge and wipe off the bottom. Once it's dry to the touch, wipe off the bottom, and then you should be good to go. If you want to combine glazes, you can do that. People typically will not mix glazes together. I know some people who do. That's not a very standard way to glaze. But the way that you can get two glazes to interact with each other would be to do like a double dip situation or a double paint situation. A lot of times people will dip like half of their piece in one color and then half of their piece in another color and have kind of a stripe where they overlap. You're welcome to do things like that. If you wanted to pick one glaze and do like a design that you painted on. A lot of times you have no idea what it's gonna look like. It could be anything. Glaze, admittedly, is not my forte, generally, but it doesn't work like paint in the way that if you mix like a blue and a red, you're gonna get purple. When I was in high school, a favorite combo that people would often use was if you dipped your piece in the turquoise glaze and then you dipped it in the ketchup glaze, it would come out like a metallic silver. So just know that it could come out like looking like anything. There's a lot to glazing. Just make sure you're using cone 6 glaze. If you want to buy your own glazes, you're welcome to. You're welcome to use anything here. Great, that's how to glaze.